Hi, I'm KULDEEP singer, and here I'm telling you all about the evidence law and how its usage is increasing day by day in our daily lives. First of all, to make it clarify, it is used both in civil as well as criminal cases. Evidence law basically helps in forming the judgment of the ongoing case. If we look from the perspective of the criminal cases, it helps the accused in getting justice. Like in some cases, accused is not even guilty, but because of the fault on the part of the proceedings of the court and research of the police, he got convicted. To help the accused in such cases, evidence law comes in use. As I mentioned before in my video, we have taken a movie, Section 375, and me and my teammate Sakshi Sharma will connect the movie with the evidence law.
Hello guys, my name is Sakshi Sharma and as Kuldeep introduced, I'm his teammate and I would be talking about the plot synopsis that holds a relevant part for when we need to explain you the sections, and I would also be covering the sections that would be left in the end because all the sections hold a very relevant part in the movie and for us to understand that what happened in the movie and how those sections work. So section 375, the movie we chose, the reason for that is that the movie is on an issue that is a persisting evil in our society, and with recent times the issue has been so persisting that it created a lot of social activism that caused the buildup of a lot of echo chambers. That is why this movie provides an unpopular opinion that also exists in the scenario, and which is very important for us as students of law and people who take interest in law to understand and to know that the coin has these two sides. And if out of 10 9 cases have the same judgment, that does not mean that the 1 out of 10 would have the same and should be measured through the same bar or through the same benchmark. So this movie is by Ajay Bahal, and this consists of two people. One is Anjali Dangle, who is a costume designer, and Rohan Khurana, who is a established director who has been arrested and convicted, who has been arrested and accused and later convicted in the Sessions Court for rape of Anjali Dangle. So in this, Rohan Khurana basically had an intimate and consensual relationship with Anjali Dangle, wherein he tried to have sexual favors for her in exchange of providing her workspace benefits, and that happened. And in the situation, Anjali developed a liking for him and wanted to develop it into something more, but that could not happen, and that became the reason why, out of her revenge, out of her to get a revenge, she filed a case on Rohan Khurana. But this is something that comes out in the very end, right? So throughout there is a senior accomplished criminal barrister Tarun Saluja, and the judge, that the lawyer from the side of Anjali Dangle is Hiral Gandhi, who is a great lawyer, and this is her first case in the movie as a great lawyer and prosecutor, and she's a defense attorney for the alleged victim. Further, the movie shows a lot of scenes in the courtroom. The movie is a great movie to understand how examination, cross-examination, how leading questions and questions work, and how wherein you can ask contempt for court, wherein you can grant objection and things like that. So Tarun Saluja is a firm believer of his principles, and he says that law is something which is the only real and positive, and justice on the other hand is really abstract. You don't know that if this is the direction you would be going on, and you would definitely get justice. So Tarun's cross-examination in the entire movie had been really great, but as in Anjali was the accused, and Anjali's word that Rohan Khurana has raped her became enough, because then the position that Rohan had was to prove that he did not do that. So he did not have any sort of great evidence to prove that he did not do that. All of the stories that has been shown in the movie were true, but the justice was not served to him. That is the end of the movie, to describe that he is a person who did not rape. He did manipulate her. He could have gone into jail for other sections, but he never raped her. But the judges, there has been a scene wherein judges go outside and they see around and open the window, and they see that there has been a lot of public turmoil with the case, that such rich people or such rich entitled men usually manipulate the women of lower society, and that is why rape must have happened, and that made them to give the decision that Rohan Khurana is convicted, which wasn't the case. Wherein there were they also tried to show a lot of cases that wherein, even though it was consensual, if on that particular day it was non-consensual, then he would be considered to be raping her, and that caused the entire turmoil. And that is how the movie takes place, and it provides us with a great perspective of law, and it had a lot of leading questions, which I would be discussing in with the sections, the questions that took place, the evidence, and the small things that matter.
As my teammate Sakshi Sharma have already told you about the plot of the movie. So here I am connecting some of the sections of the evidence law with the movie. So first of all, I am taking section 5, which talks like evidence may be given of fact and issue and relevant facts. In very easy and layman language, it basically says that persons connected with the case telling the facts to the court, like retracing each and everything. For example, Anjali telling her story to the court, like how she's been molested and how Rohan is at fault, etc. and etc. The next section I am taking here is section 7, which basically talks about the facts which provided the opportunity to Rohan to rape Anjali. For example, they both had an established sexual relationship, constant meeting for sexual favors, and like sending maid outside while Anjali came to his house, etc. and etc. The next section I am taking is section 8, which talks about motive, preparation, and conduct of the person. First of all, I am taking the word motive. Rohan trying to have privacy with the Anjali when she reached his home. He sent her maid outside, shows the motive of the rape on the part of Rohan. The next word I am taking is preparation. Is when he made Anjali his head costume designer for the next movie, even though she was not that eligible for that position. The conduct of Rohan was constantly flawed because he had sexual affairs with many other colleagues at his workplace. The next section I am talking about is section 11, which states that facts individually do not form any relevant fact and issue or something, but when connected with something forms a relevant fact. For taking the example, sending maid outside for shopping in itself is a normal course, but connected it with that situation when maid went outside and Rohan raped Anjali, it made up a relevant fact and issue that he sent his maid outside because he wanted to rape Anjali. And like promoting anyone, like not even not only Anjali or any other, but promoting Anjali and then taking sexual favors from her, making it a relevant fact. Section 15. It talks about whether the acts of the person are accidental or intentional. Here, the acts of the Rohan are not accidental but intentional. He used to do the same thing with the other girls as he does with the Anjali. There was a scene in the movie.
So I'll be talking about section 15 and the sections that are necessary further. So as in the way Kuldeep's introduction and examples went, wherein he introduced the section and gave you the example from the movie, I would be doing the same. In section 15, we are trying to establish that the acts that they were not accidental but intentional, which has been proved through the intention and character established of Rohan, wherein he had been in a consistent practice of of getting sexual favors from the people in his workspace, and that has been shown in the movie. Next is in section 75, section 45. The section 45 of Indian Evidence Act talks about medical law case, wherein the medical reports play a really necessary role and a really necessary evidence, which happened in the movie, wherein the skin of Rohan in the nails of Anjali, thigh marks on Anjali's body, semen of Rohan in the vagina of Anjali, etc., proves the point that she had been raped, and this was established by the medical reports. Now, section 65B talks about the electronic evidence, wherein the electronic evidence here was the CCTV footage that helped the defendant that she left at that time and she came at that time, and for also the maid, that the maid came so early and it wasn't enough time to be for a person to get raped, and something like that. Next, which we'll be talking about, which is really important in Indian Evidence Act, is the real evidence. Real evidence is something that that happens in the court, that is shown in the court, evidence that has been that is done in the court. That means that the act wherein the lady comes to wear the exact same jeans which Anjali was wearing on that day, to show that 22 minutes were not enough to take off those jeans and wear those jeans, wherein somebody else is forcing you to push it down. So that was the real evidence. Section 101, which is really necessary, talks about burden of proof. So it basically talks about that in rapes, that burden of proof lies on which party. So in rape, the burden of proof lies on the victim to prove that he or she has been raped. He can do that through medical reports or his own word, and all those were running in Anjali's favor. Now, section 103 happened to be important, where in section 103, if you want court to believe that something was existing, you need to prove that point to them on your own, which Rohan was not able to do. That is why he was not able to tell them that they were in a consensual relationship, and the intimacy or the sex that happened on that day wasn't something which wasn't forced. It was consensual, but he had no proof. That is why he could not win in front of the law. Then section 135, it talks about the order of production of examination of witnesses. It talks about that examination in chief occurs first, then cross examination, then further if any sort of cross examination is necessary. This movie depicts a lot of those, wherein it shows confessions, questions, examination of all the witness in details. Both of them were asked about the incident and time frame and previous record. All those questions were come under the order of production of examination of witnesses. Section 137 talks about examination in chief, which herein was Richa Chadda for Anjali, and she was cross-examined. Anjali was cross-examined by the lawyer. Section 142 talks about leading questions. Leading questions are basically rhetorical questions which are to establish a point that you went in that court that day, right? So such questions are leading questions, wherein leading question took place wherein he rhetorically emphasized on his brother that how shameful it would be to have a sister who got raped, and won't it like just trigger you to assault her to or trigger your aggression. So he that is how he confessed that he did beat her, and that made the defendant's case a little stronger, that it wasn't him who left marks on her body, and the girl Anjali Dangle is lying because she hid such an important aspect from the court. Now we talk about section 151 and 152. They are sections for indecent, scandalous questions and questions intended to insult or annoy. So these sections did not play a role, wherein these sections are most used in cases where there is a rape victim or something like that. But the court in this movie specifically established that wherein the victim's lawyer can ask them about the incident, the same can do the defendant lawyer, and it would be well justified because justice is necessary for both the parties. So all these sections took place, and that was the movie. I would advise you to watch the movie and then read those sections. And while in you're watching the movie, you would get that clarity. And we would like to thank our teacher Alokik Srivastav to lend us this opportunity. And this was a great and a very new and a very novel way of engaging us to the subject, and this was great activity and very fun to do. Thank you so much. Thank you from Kuldeep and Sakshi.